Hey y'all, today we're going to be talking about solving problems using the square root property. So first of all, make sure you have a strong understanding of square roots and what they are, and solving equations. And so what is the square root property? The square root property tells us that if x squared equals a number, I'm just going to say n, then x equals the square root of n, and x equals the negative square root of n. This here is called the principal square root. I don't know if you need to know that at all, but I'm going to say square root. That's your fun fact. So now that we know what the square root property is, let's look at some examples of it. All right, let's look at number 1. So number 1 says c squared equals 144. When we're using the square root property, we need the square isolated. So whether it be just a variable or a binomial that's in parentheses, I'll show you what that looks like in number 2. That's actually number 3. But for now, here in number 1, we have c squared already isolated. So we can take the square root of c squared. Now, the square root of c squared is going to be c. And the square root of 144 is positive and negative 12. Now, we need to check these to make sure they're still valid answers. So when we check, we will have 12 squared does equal 144, and does negative 12 squared equal 144. Here it's a pretty simple check. These, of course, are equal, so 144 does equal 144 for both of these. So we know that our answer is positive and negative 12. And we can just leave our answer like this. Okay, moving on to number 2. Number 2 has v squared plus 10 equals 59. Since the v squared, the square is not isolated, we need to do that. So they are adding 10, we need to subtract 10. And when we do that, you'll get v squared equals 49. Now that the square is isolated, we can take the square root, and we will get v equals positive and negative 7. Don't forget to check. So we have 7 squared plus 10. We need to see if that equals 59. And we have negative 7 squared plus 10 needs to equal 59. All right. Just following order of operations, we have 49 plus 10. Does that equal 59? Yes, it does. Now, moving on to the second part of the checking. Negative 7 squared is 49, positive 49. Plus 10, does it equal 59? We just showed that it does. So, our answers are going to be positive and negative 7. I'm sorry, that was my dog. Anyway, moving on to number 3, we have the square of 2x plus 3 equals 16. So we already have the square isolated. Now it looks a little weird because it's not just like c squared or v squared, but this is isolated. So we can start by just taking the square root. This will do something a little weird. We will have the square root of 2x plus 3 squared is going to be, of course, 2x plus 3. But what's the square root of 16? The square root of 16 is positive and negative 4. So how are we going to solve this? We're going to split this into 2 equations. I'm going to write it over here in blue. We're going to have 2x plus 3 equals positive 4, and 2x plus 3 equals negative 4. All right, now we can solve these equations just like normal. So we need to subtract 3, and then we'll get 2x equals 1, divide by 2, just like normal, and we'll get x equals 1/2. Moving on, subtract 3. And what's kind of weird is you'd think, like in your head initially, that you'll get the same answer, but because it's a negative number, you'll get a different answer. So we have x equals negative 7/2. Okay, so I'm going to write over here, I'm going to write x equals 1/2 and x equals negative 7/2 because we do need to check our work. So I'm just going to go ahead and erase all of this so we can check. And I'm going to start with 1/2. So we have 2 times 1/2 plus 3, all of that squared, should equal 16, right? Well, order of operations says we need to do parentheses, so inside the parentheses we need to do the multiplication. 2 times 1/2 is 1, plus 3 squared, does that equal 16? We do not know. 1 plus 3, of course, is 4. 4 squared is 16. So 1/2 is an answer, it's a valid answer. Now let's try -7/2. So we have 2 times -7/2 plus 3, that quantity squared, does that equal 16? 2 times -7/2 is going to be -7 plus 3 squared. We need to see if that equals 16. -7 plus 3 is 4. 4 squared is 16. So our answers are going to be x is equal to 1/2 and x is equal to -7. So I'm going to write it how we wrote it in the zero factor property video. I'm going to write it as -7/2 1/2. That will be how I'm going to write my solution for this one. Okay, let's look at a few more examples. All right, here are 3 more examples. So start off with number 1. Is the square isolated? No, it is not. So to isolate it, we need to just solve for y squared. So just like normal, we're going to add 18. These cancel out or undo each other. 1/2 y squared equals 18. Here they're multiplying by 1/2, so we are going to multiply by the reciprocal, which is 2. And when we do that, these will undo each other, and we'll be left with y squared equals 36. Now that we have the square isolated, I'm just going to rewrite it up here. We can take the square root. And the square root of 36 is positive and -6. And when we check our work, that will be correct. Now, let's move on to number 2. Number 2, the square is not isolated because there is something in front of the parentheses. So we need to undo that. They're multiplying by 5, so we will divide by 5. And when we do that, these will undo. We'll be left with x minus 8 squared equals 25. All right, pause the video here and try to find what x equals. All right, and here's the answers. So our solutions are going to be 3, 13. And I know that because I checked my work. Don't forget to check. This will be our last problem. Go ahead and pause the video and try number 3 on your own. When you're done, come back and see how you did. All right, and here is the solution. How'd you do? All right, this will conclude our video for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope it helped. You got this, and I'll see you next time.